Welcome to Whachacha's Tabletop World, a channel devoted to the love of board gaming. My name is Sweetness Whachacha, and today are my thoughts on Daybreak. If you'd like to see a brief overview of the game, click the link on the screen or down below. So I was very excited about this game coming out. I'm a huge fan of Matt Leacock's designs. This particular game he co-designed with Matteo Menapace, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I really love the theme. And I think that the theme is really central to this game. Now, oftentimes when what we know about a subject, we learn from maybe books or movies or TV, and that's kind of like in history, like we might know, only thing we know about a historical event might really just be because of what we've seen on at the movies or whatever. But, this game kind of acts as an educator, right? Like, I think that was probably an intentional, really a large part of the design of this game and the creation of this game. The game is made completely from recycled components. Every card, and this is amazing to me actually, every single card has a QR code on it, and you can scan that with your phone or your tablet or whatever. And not only, from a gameplay standpoint, it's amazing because you can learn about that card. You can say, oh, I have a rules question or whatever, or I want a little clarification. Every card, that's pretty crazy. But aside from that, more in the more thematic side, it will explain what that card means. So if there's an initiative or some kind of policy put forth, or a new technology, it's going to explain that technology or whatever. It's going to let you know a little bit about that. So it's very, very educational. I would say that this is kind of the type of game where you could bring it into the classroom and everybody could play it and really sort of understand those concepts. But it's definitely, I think, more in a gamer, like more of a gamer's game. I don't think it's quite a gateway level, which is a little bit unfortunate because it would really be a good tool in that way. There's not a ton of games in this genre, but I think maybe it would be kind of a cool little thing to do. I like to mention these sorts of things, like on Earth Day, maybe you could play this game and Endangered and CO2 and maybe make a little marathon out of it. I always think that's kind of fun. Normally, like speaking of Endangered, a lot of times this theme can feel really oppressive, where you're like, oh my god, like it's Endangered is, like I say, a phenomenal game, but when you're done, you are exhausted because it's simulating that challenge of like getting those animals saved, and it's kind of exhausting and it's like an uphill battle. I don't really feel that here, like it's not quite the same thing, but I will talk about the feeling that this game has in terms of its when you're playing it a little bit further on here. So the theme really shines through, not just in the mechanisms of the cards and the crisis and the global initiatives, although it does shine through very well on those things. They really make sense what they're doing in terms of creating energy or policies or whatever, and I really like that. I think they did a great job there, but really in a higher level way as well. So take the world powers, for instance. Each of them is vastly different. Some of them are, simply way better because they have a lot more advantages. But you're going to have a lot easier time, like if you play, the game says play with the US and China if you're playing two-player, which is the only way I played it. But it says, but you can switch it up. And so we played some games with that and some games with Europe and Majority World. And Majority World is, it's really bad. It's not nearly as good. They're disadvantaged regions. They don't have as much money. They don't have as much infrastructure, etc. And they're just simply much more difficult. And I really think that's very interesting because each of the powers has their advantages, and you have to, act. You're acting as a nation. You're acting mostly autonomously through the game as a kind of almost a little bit of multiplayer solo in a way. But whatever that other nation's carbon emissions are, that's also your problem. So it's everybody's problem. It's a global problem, and I think that is a very important part of what I would guess the game is trying to impact, to impart to you as you're playing it. Now, I mentioned the components being recycled and the QR codes, and that's fantastic. I do like the art on the cards. Very, very clean, very nice, very evocative, whatever they're trying to portray. The rest of the board it's okay. It's a little, I'm getting a little spoiled with the art in games. It's serviceable, but it's not really that exciting. The tokens and things, there's a lot of them that can be a bit fiddly, and one of the important things is flipping those tokens over. And you can very easily, they're not very heavy, and you can kind of hit them and they'll flip. And then you're like, wait, which ones were, so that can be a little bit fiddly. The boards themselves, though, my friend Jesse was very kind enough from Co-op for Two, lend me his Kickstarter copy. And the boards, they're pretty warped, and they're playable for sure, but there is a bit of a warpage there, and the cards and everything seems to be a little bit, warped. So that's one unfortunate thing. One nice thing is the insets and things are, I'm getting really spoiled with these because this is becoming kind of a standard, and I love it. It's just very nice to be able to. I don't even think it was that necessary. I think you could have used some other kind of things to keep track, but it's really nice and easy to see, to nest them in there, the emissions and the power and stuff, and see exactly how much energy you're producing and carbon you're creating. And in that way too, like the iconography and stuff, like very, very clean. And like I said, it's amazing that you could scan any single card that you want to, but you don't even need to. I mean, I never felt the need to say, I got to look up this card, because, it was so, it was very easy. It wasn't, there's, Race for the Galaxy is like legendary for being a bit, you got to constantly look and see what the cards can do, but this was such a clean, easy game to play. Once you get it set up on the table, it's a bit daunting because you're kind of used to like Matt Leacock's other designs and things being very clean, and quick to learn and stuff, and not a ton of pieces. In this game, you look at it, you're like, oh my god, this is going to be a lot. But once you get that to the table, you read the rules very quick. I think you could have it set up, learn to play, and really be playing effectively in 15 or 20 minutes. So, and then when you're playing, it's very smooth. So I felt like part of that is the player aids, which explain what everything is, both in theme wise and also in an instructional way, and then having the tags there, the percentages of the tags, which is really one of my favorite games, part of the games, which I'll talk about in a bit, is really kind of cool because it helps you to make those decisions, and in a better way. So I think on the whole, again, the art, some of the art not so exciting, the card art really exciting, but all of it was a very clean design, if you'll pardon the pun, in terms of its iconography and ease of play. So every now and again, a game comes along and it kind of challenges the way that you think if you're a really avid gamer. And this one, you feel like, oh, I got to build these, 5 good actions. I'm going to get some really good engines going or whatever. But that's not the case here. It's actually very similar to a game Uwe Rosenberg did called Haller 2, where you're getting something good. And I really like the idea that it's like, well, I'm just going to cover this over. I use this twice. I got a bunch of energy, but I can't sit on that. I got to get other things going, and you'll keep stacking on there. And the idea of switching your engine over, and oftentimes in engine building games, there's a moment when you're building, and you're like, okay, now I'm done building. I'm switching, and I'm just pushing through to win the game. And this one, it's a really cool idea that you're kind of switching it back and forth. And I love the fact, I think my favorite part of the game is that you're putting those tags down, and you're not just covering that over, and you're like, well, I've lost that forever, but you're still gaining on that. And then that helps to decide, very nuanced choices of like, well, I can play this here because I want to play it now, but if I play it over here, I have those better tags, which will make them actually more powerful. So I really like the idea that you're getting stronger and stronger as the game goes on, and there's a lot of little nuance to the choices. Now, I mentioned a game that was like Haller 2, but this is actually more along the lines of games which is becoming very, very popular, a very big trend now, like Wingspan, Terraforming Mars, Ark Nova, Earth, all these games where there's a ton of cards and you're kind of waiting for those combos. Now, I'm not particularly fond of those games. I know they're very, very popular, but I tend to like when I can see all my options and things. So I would think that this is almost a little bit of that kind of a game in a co-op form, but you go through so many cards in the game that you really see most stuff, and you're constantly changing your engine. So I actually prefer this style to games like Terraforming Mars. I think it's kind of an interesting little twist on that concept. Now, one more thing about the tags before I get too far away too, the fact that those are that each card has 1, 2, 3 different tags, and how their assortment is made, and how you can use those to power. You're like, I really want to use this to power. That's such an interesting choice. The only other game that I've really seen that really has done a good job of doing tags like that for resources is Marvel Champions, the card game, which is a living card game. And they really kind of, cards will have those resources on them, so you can kind of decide to spend them or not, or what kind of resources you're going for. And I really think that's very fascinating. Now I'd really like to talk about what maybe my biggest negative to the game is, and that's the kind of a little bit of a snowball effect. And that kind of comes when the game really is, you almost want to win it fast. It's one of those kind of games where the quicker you win, the more likely you are to win. And if you can get a hold of, if you can get control of the board, get your emissions down, take a few hits on the communities in crisis to do it, to maybe, get rid of some of your brown energy and stuff, and then kind of push through and get that leverage, you really keep that leverage, and it just almost immediately. So the games I've won of this, that we've won of this, has generally been like by turn 2 or 3. You really make that shift pretty quickly. On the other hand, because of the way the die rolling and the bands work, like if you get a lot of emissions and you start racking up that temperature gauge goes up, it's causing you to draw even more cards and roll the die more, which in turn is causing those, the bands to go on again and again, and you keep drawing more, and it's kind of this like snowball effect. And this game kind of has, unfortunately, a bit of that, where you're either, I personally, I don't really like to get destroyed in a game. I don't really like to destroy my opponent or the cooperative game I'm playing. I find I like it best. For me, my sweet spot is when it's a give and take. It's like, like a little bit, and it's very close. That's the most satisfying type of game for me. And I feel like this kind of has the worst of both worlds in that, where it's like, in either sense, it's really like you're either getting demolished or you're doing the demolishing. So and each of the games I played has really fallen into either of those two categories, which is a bit unfortunate. I wish that this design space, you think of like Leacock's other designs, where it's like, Pandemic and other things is like elegance defined in board gaming, and I wish there was a little more room to breathe, because sometimes I'm like, I'd love to like explore this strategy a little bit or play this off a little more, but I'm like, nope, we got to push through and win now before like that leverage goes the other way. So the games tend to be very quick, or they'll be a little longer, and you're kind of slogging through because you're just getting like kind of beaten down. So it's kind of like, that's really the big negative I can say about the game. I do like games like I mentioned, Orleans Invasion, maybe I mentioned that, where you're kind of working on your own, you're working together, but you're also mainly looking at your own board. It's one of my favorite games, so I don't mind that. I like that in this game. However, I do generally prefer, more teamwork. Players that like to avoid the alpha player. There's a lot of things that are done in gaming to defeat quarterbacking or alpha gaming. And so I think players that don't like that type of game, that want to be a little bit more their own person and make their own choices, this is definitely a better game for you. But I do generally like a little more teamwork, and I like a little more variety in the roles. As I said, the different world powers, they're vastly different in their strengths, I should say they're vastly different in their weaknesses. Some of them they're clearly better, and some of them are clearly worse, which is an interesting challenge. But I think where it really kind of shines through are those challenge cards, where you can really get a lot more variety in the game. Although I do generally miss the idea that each of you has a special power. I really like that in games, but it's kind of cool that challenge deck acts as that in this game, providing you with a way to play it in different kind of ways. The global initiative thing, the global projects, I like the fact that you could pick from 2, but most of them generally not as compelling as what you were doing in your own tableau. But it was kind of like a neat little extra option to have. Most of them needed cards to power, and most of them I'm like, I'm not sticking a card back there. I'm using it here where I can kind of develop my engine going forward. The Crisis I do really like the themes of, and I like the fact that you can see one coming and plan a little bit, and most of them tended to tax the same kind of thing, those the resilience. So you did know what to expect, so it wasn't like you were going to hit. Sometimes you would get hit with some that are really brutal, where you lose a bunch of trees, and that creates carbon and stuff like that. So that's kind of bad. So they could be a little swingy, but as events go, they weren't as bad as like a take that kind of game. And I like that sort of mechanism. I've seen it before in Captain is Dead, which is kind of cool, where you get to see some of the events that are coming, a little bit of a forecast, which I think is kind of cool. Overall, it was a fun challenge. And it was really almost like an art piece or an educational piece, which I found very, very interesting and cool. I love all the QR codes and all that information that you can learn more. I really love learning and getting inspired by gaming, and really anything in my life, but especially so in games. I wish there was a little more room to breathe in the design, and that you weren't kind of like dealing with that bit snowball nature or swinginess of either you're winning or the game is winning in a big way. But I am looking forward to trying those other challenge cards and things, and getting more time with the game. Hopefully this review helps you decide whether this game is going to be for you or not. If you didn't catch my overview, click on the link below. But for now, I gotta roll.